Okay, so anytime I'm starting a design, I'm always starting in pencil, I'm sketching it out, and I'm considering things like overlap, especially. So if you can see here, I started with this pumpkin stack right here, and then I added this guy and this guy. These are in the foreground, so that overlap is really going to enhance your design and keep it from looking flat and boring. So always ask yourself, how can I use overlap to enhance this design? The other thing I want to highlight is if you are having a text in your piece of artwork, I suggest giving yourself some guidelines of placement to create a sort of layout with your words so that you know that they can be centered. And if you're going to do something like a curve of your line, you know it's not going to be wonky. Lay this all out in pencil, or at least when I create, that's what I do. Then when I have it how I want it, I'm going to create something called a graphite transfer. So then I'm going to lay my piece over top and I'm going to retrace everything that I have with heavy pressure. A graphite transfer is a great option for you to keep from having heavy lines on your final piece, but you are getting the important lines that you want. I love these little heirloom pumpkins because they have these sort of bubbles. You can see this is definitely a rough design, and we'll fill it in and fix it a little bit. So when you're doing your graphite transfer, you're only going to go over the lines that are most important, meaning I'm not going to go over this, everything that's not showing, I'm not going to redraw because I won't need it. That's not going to go in my final draft with the pumpkin. So you can see I have a little bit of lines, and that's all I need, just the most important lines. Then I'll fill in my text later. And now I'm going to start with the watercolor. Anytime I'm using watercolors and I'm working on my final piece, I am always going to test the color that I'm mixing to make sure I'm getting just what I want on my test sheet before I cover it on my actual final piece. I'm looking for that minty green that you find in a lot of those heirloom pumpkins, and I found it right here. So I'm going to think I'm going to do this pumpkin, that color. So slowly just filling in these lines. I love starting with a sketch because it gives the opportunity to, once you have your sketch in, you're just kind of filling in those lines that you've already put there. And it's almost a bit more of a color by number. That way you can focus mostly on your highlight and shadow and the colors you're using instead of having to think too hard about shape and things like that. We're going to do a base layer here on all these pumpkins, and then I'll come back and add highlight and shadow.